made a launcher app instead of a phone, but then they couldn't have charged $800 for it. So I get that the point is on this phone, you can't get trapped doom scrolling or on TikTok, while on the regular phone with the launcher, you still could, technically. And you know, it's a cool piece of hardware, it's a really fun design, and I like that this stuff is unique and that it exists, but at the end of the day, it's hard to get behind charging that much for something that's pretty much guaranteed for most people going to be their second phone when they're already carrying a full-priced, fully capable phone, probably in their other pocket. Kind of feels like they're taking advantage of people's lack of discipline with this shiny new $800 box that's gonna solve their doom scrolling problem. You know what is worth the money though? The new Ridge power bank. The value proposition here is actually insane because yes, it is a power bank,
but this genuinely feels like crazy making. This really does. You're winding somebody up so hard, and then after you've wound them up as much as possible, now you're going to talk about, oh, I don't think you're dealing with internet comments well. Like, let's be clear, okay? Ethan's issue was he feels like he didn't have any support from his friends, like Ian. Ian felt like Ethan was being ridiculous to say that just because he wouldn't say anything publicly about it. And the whole time Ethan had those feelings, Ian is essentially accusing him of being overly paranoid and reading too much into the comment section while simultaneously working with all of the worst people on the internet who are the chief architects of all of the snarker drama and all of the worst things about Ethan being spread on the internet at that point in time. Like, Ian's content cop disproved Ethan's paranoia, because I don't know if you would call it paranoia when the paranoia is real.
So I was recently in an iDubbbz content cop video, as some of you know, and I wanted to make a follow-up video of my own. But first, I thought we would watch a little clip of the interview that Ian actually pulled from to include in his content cop video.
Are you in pain? Are you
To include in his content cop video.
are you in pain? Are you remembering the pain of
Yeah.
what was hurting at that time? What is the pain?
What'd you end up getting? I think it's a 14-inch barrel of Giesel. Is that how you pronounce the brand? Lower, upper. Have you shot the alien yet? I put 2 full mags through it yesterday without it jamming, and then it started jamming again. I think it's getting better, or something is happening, but oh my god. When it's working, Geisley, not Geasley, sorry, Geisley. When it's working, it's like boom, 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 boom. When it works, whew. When it works, it works.
I think just being like super lost and not feeling like I have any control over anything. But I will say that Anissa was like my only amount of like stability during that, so like that kind of helped me in a way.
Yeah.
Because she was very I mean, she was experiencing it too, but I think she was much more grounded, like leading into it. So, you know, I also see the dynamic of Ethan and Neil.
Get a revolver? Maybe. Someday.
It's just really, it's really hard to be a couple online and see people attacking your partner, and it's like, okay, like if you come to their defense, that doesn't always help them, right? Sometimes that makes it worse for them. So I'm seeing Ethan go through a lot of that. Ethan and Neil.
Okay, so I wanted to use that clip as an introduction to this video. I'll show more from that interview later on. So recently,
I would just like to say, I hope one day, this is my dream, okay? This is my dream. This dream will never come true, but I can still dream it, okay? My dream is that one day I have trained you guys so well that there are people that we can look at that we f***ing hate, okay? That have just done horrible, stupid shit, like Ian, like iDubbbz, okay? But when they say something true, we can go, oh yeah, that's true. One day, okay? What Ian says here is very true. And funnily enough, even though everybody on his side of the aisle gave him credit for saying it, and they destroyed me for saying it, one of the big issues that I had in the past with people like with Lav, or when there would be people on stream that are getting attacked, is one of the things I would say, especially for women, but really for anybody, is that I can't come out and just defend them from all criticism, because sometimes defending them will make people hate them even more, because they'll go, oh, now you're getting favorable treatment or whatever. Or like, oh, this person's just defending you because they're simping or whatever. And it is actually very frustrating to deal with, because you're not actually sure, like, okay, well, I'm not actually sure how I'm supposed to step in or intervene or whatever in this particular moment. But it is challenging. And I'm sure he had to deal with a lot of this as well. But
I was in an iDubbbz video, a content cop video. The first content cop video that he has published in 7 years. In this video, iDubbbz goes after Ethan Klein.
the issue here isn't if it's right or wrong. It's that he is talking about his situation, which is entirely different than Ethan's situation. It's not either Ethan's shitty situation. Well, we don't know, because it sounds like, and I could be wrong, I'm just making an assumption, but it's well, I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong. It sounds like they had a full conversation that wasn't just the 1 minute clip that we saw in the video that ended up in the content cop, right? I'm guessing they had a full-on conversation about this stuff.
The video, of course, has millions of views. Everyone is talking about it on the internet right now. And I have heard from a lot of you saying that you're worried about me because you know about the toxicity of these kinds of dramas, and this drama specifically, and the larger drama about the war in Gaza. And along these lines,
I guess this guy probably, the Kirkana guy, he just probably doesn't do politics as much, right? Like at all. It's just him describing it that way is wild. The drama in Gaza.
larger drama about the war in Gaza. And along these lines, the online assholes have already showed up in my inbox, of course. I knew that this would happen. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but I thought that I would provide a little video here describing my involvement.
The difference is Ethan is defending Ela because the internet is attacking her for defending Israel. They're both defending Israel. Ian missed the point. I made all about his issues during a situation with Anissa. I would have to see, maybe we'll get into it here, what the longer context is about. But for all of the hating on Ian, of which there is plenty, which is fine, hate away. I hate on Ian a lot, especially since he went ultra woke. There was a lot of like really gross, disgusting bullshit attacks on him and Anissa because Anissa did OnlyFans and because they started dating. There were like abhorrently gross, disgusting comments made about her by people like Sam Hyde and others. So regardless of anything having to do with the situation with Ethan.
Involvement in the video. So first off, if
to most
you're
people,
new
stuff
to
like
this
that doesn't affect them. It's literally just drama, memes, or entertainment. What do you mean?
Describing my involvement in the video. So first off, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I have been a therapist and a professor since around 1997, and I started this podcast, Psychology in Seattle, in 2008, 17 years ago. And I have been...
Why include it in the content cop in that case then? I think that was a huge mistake. I think it super undermines whatever message would have been in that, and I think it kind of weaponizes... I really don't like the weaponization of therapy or therapy language. I think it's a huge hallmarker. I think a lot of women do it now. There's probably men that do it too. I just don't interact with men in that way, so it's hard to see it as much. But like the whole like calling people crazy and like using like a psychology term like, oh, my boyfriend gaslit me. No, he didn't. He lied to you. He didn't gaslight you. He just lied to you, okay? Or like, oh my God, he was being emotionally abusive. No, it sounds like he just didn't agree with you and called you a mean name. And then you called him a mean name. You guys weren't being abusive to each other. You guys were just being mean, okay?
Making all sorts of content, psychology related. So I thought the best way to explain my involvement in iDubbbz content cop video was to give a brief summary of the chronology up until this point. So I took some notes here. Back in May of 2023, so 2 years ago, many people were asking me to analyze an apology video by iDubbbz. I only knew iDubbbz from Creator Clash, which was the year prior. So I didn't know what he would be apologizing for because I didn't know what he was known for or what he...
The reason that it is bad is that in the content cop, Ian included that moment crying about it and came off as Ian pretending to care about Ethan and Hila's emotions. No, I 1,000,000,000% agree with that. I'm sorry, let me be clear, okay? Including it in the content cop was really cringe, and the way that they presented it almost did make it seem like Ian was like crying because he cared so much about Ethan and Hila. In my mind, I feel like that had to have come from a different conversation, so I guess I wasn't playing it as much back then. But I mean, it definitely felt that way. I could see how people would feel. That, which is gross. They shouldn't have done that. That was definitely not good. But
So I didn't know what he would be apologizing for because I didn't know what he was known for or what he had published prior. So I watched his apology video and analyzed it, and I gave him a B. And to my surprise, he commented on the video.
why is Ian associated with denims is bad, but you doing it with Sam Hyde is not? Didn't you do the same thing to Ian that Ian did to Ethan? I can't tell when these questions are real or not. I can't tell. I really can't tell. I can't tell. Why is Ian associated with denims is bad, but you doing it with Sam Hyde is not? One, I'm not even friendly with Sam Hyde. Like, we have the most tenuous of friendly connections. I think I've talked to him twice on stream. I'm not friends with him at all. Yeah, I don't even know what the connection that you're talking about could be there, number one. Number two, though, and I understand I'm unique here because I am an outcast from all internet communities, but if somebody does something bad or rude or wrong or mean, then I have no problem saying that. And I won't pull punches or, like, be quiet because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, whereas these people won't say anything to defend somebody. So, for instance, if I was friendly with Sam Hyde, like I just said it, Sam Hyde, the comments that he made about Inisa, I think were gross. I think that Ian was totally within his right, I think, to kick him out of the, oh, I don't know about the Froggy guy. That was a little bit more, I'm not as sure, because I think Sam Hyde was just training him, and I think Ian was being unclear about it initially. But, like, I fully, I can understand why Ian would hate him there. It's not so much, like, who do you associate with, although that can be a part of it. It's more just, like, what are the comments that you're willing to make publicly about it? And then, yeah, that's what I would say. I complain about this, actually. It's really funny. As a celebrity, and Ian kind of talked about this. Not Ian, I'm sorry, Ethan. They have similar names. Ethan kind of talked about this. One of the worst feelings as a celebrity is when other celebrities message you or email you or DM you or whatever, and they're like, hey, I just want you to know, I see that you're going through some shit, man, and I support you, but I will never, ever, ever fucking say anything publicly about it, and my community will continue to trash you. But I want you to know I got your back. I got your back, dog. I got you. I got you, dog. Behind the scenes, dog. But I'm never going to say shit about it publicly. And my whole community thinks you're a fucking XYZ, okay? But I got you. And it's like, wow, bro. That's so brave. Thank you for wanting to maintain the cloud connection, but being unwilling to stake any public position on it. Thanks, my dude. Better than nothing? No, nothing is better. I think nothing is better. That, just in my mind, yeah.
Which was interesting because that doesn't usually happen. And I came...
What makes a person like Ian change so much? Is it really a cliche like love? Was he faking before or now? There's several things that are going on. One that I can admit now, but I would have never admitted earlier in my life. And then another just has to do with changing internet. One is that I do believe, you just never would admit this. Young men just have a hotter type of energy where we burn bright, especially if you're edgy. And I think as you get older, you talk to more people, you see more perspectives. There are some things that are epic and hilarious when you're younger. And then when you get a little bit older, you're like, fuck, it's kind of mean. It was funny, but probably meaner than it should have been. I don't need to be that mean, okay? This is one of the reasons why I let Sneeko slide on so much unhinged shit. I mean, like, I'll still, like, call him out for it, but I'll be like, yeah, hey, dude, he's a young dude. He's like 20, I don't know what he is now, 24, 25. But, yeah, when you're younger, especially when you're a man, young men, we're just wild, okay? We're unhinged a little bit. And so you get older, you mellow out a bit. And then also, the internet culture has changed a lot too. In some ways, for the worst, okay? The wokies are out here policing us and canceling people and me tooing people with lawsuits that are sometimes crazy, you know? All sorts of crazy stuff happening. But in some ways, it's better. The internet has expanded a fuck ton. That people can make money online doing work full time. The quality of the content in some ways has gotten a lot better, even if the originality or creativity has suffered a bit. And there's just been like more people, more styles of content. This is good. You know, there's a lot of good stuff that comes from that as well. So the culture has changed a lot, and then people have gotten older, and then you look back and like, okay. The only problem is, okay, this was my process. This was my process. I've explained this 3 times in high school. We'll do this real quick, okay? I was a super Catholic person up until like, I think 14, 15. I don't know why. I had another Catholic friend, the girl who used to give me rides, and she started recommending me Ayn Rand. I started to become like more atheist. And then I started to read, it was a longer book. I think it was the Atlas Shrugged one. And then it was the short story Anthem. And after these 2 things, I become enamored with Ron Paul. I'm like a full-on objectivist. I'm like, oh my God, this is the smartest shit ever. And I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why my brain had this moment. I'm so glad I had this moment. I don't know how this happened. But at some point I stopped and I realized, I was like, okay, I went from being a Catholic to an atheist. And then I found one person that I read, and I read everything by her. Well, not everything. I think she has a couple other books and essays and shit but I read this stuff, and I just completely and totally like bought into her ideology 1,000,000,000%. And I thought, okay, well, what are the chances that as soon as I become an atheist, the first person that I read happens to have all the answers? Like, it's probably more that this person has a huge advantage on me because they're much older than me, and they can write better, and they can be persuasive, and I just haven't like learned enough. So I need to exercise a lot of like ideological humility and just be aware that, especially as a younger person, I can get persuaded by a lot of shit. So I need to sit back and evaluate, okay, well, what are the really fundamental important things to me, absent reading anybody else? Like, I don't need anybody to tell me that, rape and murder is bad. And I should be able to think at least a little bit about, well, why is rape and murder bad? Okay, well, I don't like these things being done to me. There's probably a lot of other people that probably feel the same way. We probably have to have some kind of shared agreement. And you kind of like build out from there. And then after you have like kind of the bare bones or skeletons of things that you find important, then you kind of like read other people to fill in the blanks. Okay. I don't know. That process I think is really important. I think that sometimes what happens is when people get ejected out of one world because there's just too much dissonance, they can't handle it because it's just not working, right? In terms of how they want to see themselves in the world, how they want to see the world, which I imagine happened with Ian, and Ethan too, actually. But Ian, where he's like, okay, I don't want to contribute to this much like, nasty stuff, or being a massive hater or bullying people. Once you have that moment, if you don't take a step back and like kind of do this fundamental evaluation where you're like, okay, well, why are these things good? Why are these things bad? If you don't step back and do that, then what'll happen is you will fall completely into the next thing that you read or analyze. And that's what happened with Ian, I think, because he went from the super edgy, N-word saying guy to the ultra wokey, from one, like, it's like the meme, the internet meme, like, wow, you're telling me he went from being a far right extremist to a far left extremist? No way, huh? It's because these people haven't taken a step back and thought like, okay, well, fundamentally, what are the things that are important to me? What are the values that I want to defend and project into the world? Yeah, there you go.
Came to learn that he and his wife, Anissa, have been fans of my channel. Then about a year later, in February.
I think Ayn Rand and Rand Paul are easy to mix up. Wait, did I say Rand Paul? I meant to say Ron Paul. He said Rand Paul? I meant Ron Paul. Ron Paul ran for president in 2008. I was a huge libertarian back then. When you say you go through these evaluations, are you writing this stuff down, or is it thoughts over time? Sometimes it's thinking, if there's like a big thing and you think about, I'll write it down. I think writing stuff down is really good because you can write arguments back and forth to yourself, and you can, it's just good to have it like formalized on paper. And then it's easier to attack an argument that you've written down rather than to try to think of an argument and then think of the counter argument and then go back. It's just writing stuff down is good, I think. And you can put stuff down on electronic notepad and then pick it up later as well.
Fans of my channel. Then about a year later, in February of 2024, so about a year ago, Stacy and I, my wife, we were at a breakfast joint here in Seattle, and Ian and Anissa, if you don't know, iDubbbz, his name is Ian and his wife Anissa approached our table because they saw us walk in. We connected and started talking about being on each other's podcast, and then we started to chat more off air and text each other and stuff, and I would watch one of his unboxing videos and laugh, and I would text him and say, that was a funny bit there, or whatever. And I, over time, started to learn more about their lives. Even on the podcast, we talked about their lives and the history of their childhood and their families, and also what they went through regarding the recent cancellation or internet drama that they had been going through. And it might surprise many of you that Ian, off air, is very soft-spoken. He's a really good listener, actually, as well. In fact, my wife only knows Ian through meeting him in person, and when she saw the Content Cop video, the one right here with Ethan, my wife was actually surprised at how brazen and how outspoken he is in the video. The other thing that is notable is that it was pretty clear to me that he deeply regretted what he had done before online. That he...
There's also this, why don't you use this camera setup when you make appearances on shows like Piers Morgan, and that other one you just did. Wait, I did use this camera setup. What are you talking about? There's another thing to be said for this, and again, I don't like to rag on people because everybody's on their own life journey. And maybe I even overemphasize this by trying to do a diversity of content or have a diversity of things I think about. Sometimes I think people leave a thing, or people, you know, they leave a thing, and then that thing, the antithesis of that thing, becomes the defining aspect of their life. It influences every single thing about them. A really good example, anytime you see a person who's like an ex-whatever, Muslims do this a ton. I'm an ex-Muslim. I left Islam, and their whole life becomes about anti-advocacy, anti-Islamic advocacy, or anti-religious advocacy. The hardcore atheists in the early 2010s, late 2000s did this. Me, one of them, for a while. Yeah, when people leave a thing, sometimes they define themselves as the antithesis of that thing, and I think that's not good either. You get like really pigeonholed.
Knew now just how bigoted and toxic and hurtful it was. I'll never forget him telling me a story.
The framing of the shot, not the tech. What, you mean like a super duper close-up? I mean, I could just zoom the fuck in. What was it called? Al-Alibia? I don't even know that. Fuck, I'm never gonna be able to find this. Oh, I did find it.
Rise.
What? This is just a close-up. Why did they? Why is my? Wait, did they fuck with the aspect ratios? I feel like they stretched this guy's face. I feel like they compressed my face. What the fuck? What's going on in here? I mean, I could just zoom in on my camera, but no. We wide. We getting wide. Dude, this debate was wild. This guy here to the right is like on my side with the free speech stuff, but he is an insane pro-Pally, and I doubt he believes in freedom of speech. I think he just is he's pro-Pally, and the Palestinian people were getting deported, so he was pro-free speech here. And then this guy on the left was super deport them all, who the fuck cares? But he was way more pro-Israel, so I was kind of, oh my god, this was so awkward. The comments on this were really good. Yeah, but I think it's because it's mostly you guys.
I don't know if it was on the air or not, but he was at a public event of some sort, and one of his fans approached him and said, look, I know you don't like my people, meaning trans, but I'm a big fan, so can you sign this, or something like that.
Oh shit, wait.
Fans approached him and said, look, I know you don't like my people, meaning trans, but I'm a big fan, so can you sign this, or something like that. And in that moment, Ian just, his heart broke and sunk and was...
Wait, how long ago was this? There's no way somebody said this to him recently. Is he describing it? I'm sorry, I've paused this to talk about it. Is this a story that Ian told him from a long time ago? Because if so, I could believe it. We saw this happen to, this is a long time ago? Oh, yeah. We saw this happen to, Sneeko, kind of, right? Where, not exactly, but didn't like two kids come up to Sneeko and they were like, hey, what's up? Like, we hate Jews, or we hate trans people or something? And Sneeko's like, whoa. We hate women? Oh, yeah. Wait. I said trans people. Are you saying trans people aren't women? Got him. Just kidding. Okay. what specifically did Ethan do to piss off these retards? Ethan right now is just a stand-in for like the rabidly not anything that's not a total and 100% buy-in to the Palestinian narrative just gets written off as being massively, you know, pro-Zionist, basically, which is sad, but that's, I mean, that's what it is.
Hurting because he thought, oh, this is a human, this is someone, and they're a fan. They know that I don't like them just because they're trans. Like, there's something terribly wrong with my career at this point.
I think there's something, I wish that people would understand this thing, okay? I understand why. To some extent, it doesn't matter what your intention is when you say or do a certain thing. What matters is the effect or the impact you have on another person, right? You know, you can say like, oh, well, I didn't mean it for you to take it that way, but, well, I mean, some people are going to take things ways regardless because you don't always have the opportunity to, you know, dictate to them what your intention is. Who knows what context they're seeing it in? You know, there's a whole bunch of reasons why somebody might not get the same context out of a thing that you wanted them to get out of it. But there's something to be said for, and this is why I wish we just had more words to describe like racism or transphobia, but I guess we can say like problematic is a word, but it feels like it got co-opted and it's so fucking soy. But like there's something to be said for a guy like Ian, or a guy like me who does like a lot of edgy content, incredibly edgy, you know, racial humor, sexist humor, whatever. And then somebody comes up to you like, oh, hey, like, I know that you like don't like gay people, you don't like this. And then for that moment to be like, well, wait, hold on. It's not that I don't like you guys, or no, I don't mean it like that. The fact that a person like that is willing to have that reaction where it's like, well, fuck, okay, it might seem like that, but I don't actually hate you guys, right? It shows that there's like a different thing at play there than just, they're not motivated by just racism. They're not motivated by just sexism. Yeah. I feel like one thing that people don't remember, because man, it must have been this like 10-year section of the internet, which feels like a long time. It was a long time ago. But there really was this time on the internet where all you could do was just ramp up how edgy you were being to get attention. Like that was it. You were just going as edgy as fucking possible to get a rise out of people. Because at some point, like slurs or whatever the fuck else, like no one gives a fuck. Everybody else say this. You had to be super edgy with your word choice. You had to be witty. You had to be dark as fuck. Like that's where you get things like Goatsy, right? You're like literally linking a picture to, you know, is that the one with the guy's like exploded asshole with the glass jar, or like 2 girls 1 cup? Like this stuff is existing, so people are just ramping up the fucking edginess as much as possible. And then when you take that world and then you like translate it to YouTube and you start doing it, it's not because you necessarily hate all these people. If anything, I'll say carefully because some people are racist or sexist. If anything, back then, right, the joke was the stuff was so horrible. That's why it was funny. Is because like obviously it's a fucking horrible thing to say, but that's what makes it funny. But regardless, Al Arabiya has a bad reputation. Do you know before going on? I think I looked a little bit. What is it, like a Qatari news network or something? I'd probably do like RT and stuff for a little bit now as I get back into the swing of things. But.
And that had been a buildup. He had started to notice the way that the internet was, or the way his fans were, or the monster that he had created online because his fans were going after people, that kind of thing. And so he started to seriously question what he was doing, and so he started to not make that kind of content anymore. But he wasn't being vocal about his change of heart, and he was investigating it even further, you know, through therapy, self-reflection, talking to his wife, experiencing the kind of bullying that she went through and the kind of toxicity that she was experiencing. And then he was starting to think, am I a part of that online bullying? About you know, I'm watching someone that I love go through that bullying. Am I
one of the reasons why having this happen to you is important as well is because it really does, and I've said this a lot, and if you played games, I don't know if it's the same anymore, but back in my day, the most toxic people were always the people that didn't turn on chat. And the reason why is because it's very, very difficult to be mean to somebody, like with your voice, when you can hear them being upset and everything. Like that's just, it requires like an inhuman amount of hatred to do that. Like you have to be a very evil person to hear somebody genuinely get really upset and then to keep going on. It's just a very difficult thing to do.
One of those bullies, not to Anissa, but to is there another Anissa out there that I've been attacking, and having that empathy, right? When people exhibit lack of empathy, usually it's because they haven't been given an opportunity to understand what other people are going through.
Yeah.
When you understand what other people are going through, it gives you an opportunity to have your natural empathy engaged, and that's what happened for him.
True.
Now, I want to say that a lot of you actually reached out to me when I started to collaborate with iDubbbz, telling me that I should not be collaborating with him because of the things that he has done. And those kinds of conversations are important. And if I were to blanketly endorse everything that he had done in the past, then that would be horrible of me, actually. But a lot of things are exhibited and playing out in my relationship with iDubbbz. One is that just on a personal level, I can relate to the online hate that he and Anissa received. I have only experienced 1% of that, but even that 1% was very hard to deal with emotionally. And when I would reach out to other content providers, they would almost always say things like, well, you just have to have a thick skin. And I thought, okay, I need to have a thick skin. Well, that didn't work for me. And I began to wonder if a lot of people were saying you have to have a thick skin because they didn't know what else to say or do. And that.
Why do you think it's okay to talk about Asmon's dead mother? Imagine if you did the same about your son. You push Asmon away from possibly turning from Trumpism. I read, somebody linked something in chat, and I read the headline to this, and I didn't read the article at all because I didn't have time and I was lazy. But I imagined a whole thing about what the article would say based on the headline, and now I'm afraid to read the article because I hope it's not something different. So it had to do with something along the lines of like, you're never being insensitive, you just don't have the power. I think that was the headline to this. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And the headline to this article has fucking rolled around in my head for the last 24 hours to where, because I'm trying to wonder, like, how is it that people like Asmongold can be so disgustingly unempathetic and then have the gall, the audacity to come out and accuse somebody else of being mean or insensitive? Like, that seems like it requires like an inhuman level of disconnectedness from everything that you've said and done. And I wonder if it literally just has to do with like who holds the power in the situation and then can thus dictate who it's okay to make fun of or not make fun of. And an Asmongold situation, and arguably culturally, I guess, if Republicans are in office and immigrants are the ones we shit on and brown people are the ones we shit on, the ones that we shit on, and government employees are the ones we shit on, you can make fun of them endlessly. It has nothing to do with empathy. It has nothing to do with how nice or mean you are. It just has to do with who has the power and who can dictate who the enemies are and who the friendlies are. When you ask me how can I make fun of Asmongold's mother, I think I made a point that Asmongold would literally justify anything, even the worst thing, which would be raping his mother's corpse, which I think is probably one of the worst things. Well, I don't know if it'd be rape, it's a corpse. Fucking a corpse. Let me be more specific with my language. I feel like that's one of the worst things you could probably think of in terms of what you could justify. In terms of that being mean, I am so sorry, but this weird game that people are playing where you can just act in the most insane, inhuman ways towards certain groups of people, and then, you know, like Twitter is a literal fucking Nazi safe space now in terms of the insane shit that we see on there. And you've got Elon Musk, you know, comedy is legal again, and all of these guys, you know, coming out about how like, oh, they're just trying to cancel everybody. They can't even tell a fucking joke anymore. I think the Made in America fleshlight joke for his mother's corpse, I think that was a pretty funny joke. I thought it was pretty edgy. I thought it was pretty funny. I think it, you know, works. I maybe could have thought of something about tariffing in there as well, right? Since it would be domestically manufactured. I think it's pretty funny. If something like that is so upsetting to him, he can spend all the time he wants virtue signaling to his audience or, you know, fake getting upset over whatever. I doubt he got upset. But in that case, can you turn like 10% of that towards the federal employees that you're literally making fun of as they're putting out TikToks or putting out Instagram posts or stories about how they're like having to leave their jobs or getting fired for no reason, instead of this like, oh, you can go DoorDash, or, you know, the joking about like, I'm gonna put on a Detective Pikachu costume and I'm gonna go celebrate with the immigration dude, you know, as they try to round up immigrants and deport them out of the country. Like, I'm sorry, like, these people are still alive. At least your mom's dead, right? She's not gonna get upset about any of the shit that I say about her body. These people are literally living and they're being harmed by the administration that you're supporting right now. That level of detachedness of like, oh, it's just politics, LOL, that's bullshit. And I have no sympathy for anybody that tries to play that game, okay?
that a lot of people were suffering. And then recently, over the last couple of years, I saw a lot of YouTubers with millions of subscribers closing shop and not making videos anymore, because I think, and they would say sometimes, that it was because of their fans, even the way that they talk to the content provider. So I started to wonder if I might actually have to figure this out on my own, and that other content providers don't have an approach or a system or any sort of wisdom about how to cope with this. And I thought, well, I've been through a lot of therapy myself. As a profession and as a professor and as a content provider, it's important that I at least try to understand our psychology and our...
Like the fact, I think you're typing this unironically. So he makes fun of immigrants and you make fun of his dead mom, LeMayo logic. Like in my mind, I'm trying to think, am I being like a lay edgy logic lord here? Maybe I'm being a lay edgy logic lord a little bit, but in my mind, like one of those is clearly worse than the other. In one, you have people who are actively being deported from the country right now, whose lives are being destroyed. And in the other, you have a person who's dead. Like, I would say that making fun of the people whose lives are actively being destroyed right now and supporting actively, politically, supporting an administration doing it is way worse than making fun of somebody's dead mom. Yeah.
To provider, it's important that I at least try to understand our psychology and our experience.
And I'm not even really making fun of his dead mom. I'm making fun of the absurd lengths he would go to defend this administration, using his dead mom as a prop for the joke. So I don't know anything about his mom. She might have been a nice lady, or she might have been a piece of shit. I have no idea.
How to deal with things, and there's some parallels to being a professor and a therapist. And so I have my own approach, and so to see someone else go through this and to have them experience the fallout, even if I might say he deserved to have some fallout from what he put out there into the world for a number of years. The feelings and the experiences, I think, are not only personally interesting to me, but I feel like I want to provide a way of talking about this, because there's this notion out there that you will hear a lot of people say that, well, they're famous, so then the gloves can come off. Right?
Destiny, don't say you aren't making fun of his dead mom while justifying doing so. You called this out. No, it's fine to bite the bullet here. Well, first of all, I'm not... What do you think? I'm dodging criticism on any of this? No. You can get mad at jokes. I'm just saying I'm not like making fun of his dead mom insofar as like I'm making fun of her for something she did. I'm making fun of him and the absurd lengths that he would go through to defend dumb shit that the Trump admin would do. I literally said I'm using her as a prop. Shit, you're fucking retarded.
Right? They know what they're getting into, or they're rich and famous, so it doesn't...
Destiny, Asman views it as illegals already breaking the laws. It's ignorance that clouds his thoughts. I mean, you can say that, but then the problem you get is, at what point do we have any responsibility whatsoever for the things that we believe? Like, I'm sorry, but Asmongold is an adult. He has access to the information. Like, he has everything he needs to make an informed view, or to have an informed view of the world. Like, what am I supposed to... Like, how much of a baby can you be treated as? Like...
Doesn't matter if we bully them.
Okay, so, fuck. Stop! We'll talk about Asman after this, because apparently it responded to me, so... And I think I can stream really late tonight, so... Okay.
There's this notion out there that you will hear a lot of people say that, well, they're famous, so then the gloves can come off, right? They know what they're getting into, or they're rich and...
Real Will Smith. I almost did that, but one, I don't have the Photoshop skills, and two, I think it would have been too far, and three, I'm not even sure it would have been as funny. He said, Destiny, isn't Asman's mom a member of Frente Aragua? I thought about like doing a hand coming up from the grave and putting the fucking tattoos on the hand or whatever and be like, oh, this is why. I thought, or some bullshit, because Trump literally just showed a fucking Photoshop picture, I think, of the guy's hand, saying like, this is the reason why he got deported. I'm pretty sure that picture's not even real, but I don't. It would have been too much, and I don't know. That's too much. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Listen to this.
That you will hear a lot of people say that, well, they're famous, so then the gloves...
The MS-13 is Photoshop, but the tattoos are real. Well, if the MS-1 and 3 are Photoshopped, then the picture would be Photoshopped, right?
Can come off, right? They know what they're getting into, or they're rich and famous, so it doesn't matter if we bully them or hurt them or try to attack them. You know, they're a public figure. They know what they signed up for. And what I would say to that is, just because someone's a public figure, then you can be a psychopath?
True.
No. And there's a lot of pain and loneliness in the world, and people are trying to cope with it in a variety of ways. And one of the ways that we've known about even before the internet is through social comparison and bullying. When you are on the playground and you see a bully, everyone understands that that bully is not dealing with emotions well, that they are not confident, that they are not secure.
What is the...
Mrs. Brown is like the most lesbo teacher I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Why you reading, bitch?
Because I like to read, and this is a really good book.
You're a really good bitch. Bitch.
Why you gotta bother me, man?
Because I'm not doing very well at school. I'm reading at a 3rd grade level. I really don't want to get left back. So when I see somebody reading for fun, it makes me feel that much more stupid. And then I get mad.
I didn't know that.
Asman said that yesterday he lost any will to talk to you anymore. He said, we'll never engage with you, so you did lose a potential Asman bridge. No, that's a lie, and you're a dipshit for believing that. Asman would have never spoken to me. He's had plenty of opportunities in the past. Conservatives do this thing, and Asman does it too. Everybody does it. Everybody's such a bitch. I wish people would be more honest about how they feel, or would stop being so scared or cowardly about their positions on things. Conservatives will do this thing where they'll be like, I'm trying to think of, we should be able to think of a ton of examples. It's almost like the you've already done it, so I'm not. It's kind of, yeah, it's like the, but it's not really the same thing. A conservative will never have the intention of doing a particular thing. We'll say like some kind of healthcare program or whatever. They'll never have the intention of doing it. We'll just say some kind of single payer healthcare program. It's just, they're never going to. They were never going to. But then as soon as you do anything, let's say like funding war in Ukraine, they'll be like, well, you funded war in Ukraine, now you're never getting single payer healthcare. And it's like, motherfucker, you were never going to give us single payer healthcare. What the fuck are you talking about? What? Oh, now that you guys have, now that you tried to prosecute Trump, we're never going to, let the J6ers be held accountable. Like, motherfucker, you were never going to have those people held. What are you talking about? This was always your position. Asmongold is never going to confront somebody that could critically challenge his views. Don't sit here and pretend like, oh no, well now that you said this, he's talking about, nah, the motherfucker was never going to, ever, never, ever, okay? Don't be a retard, all right?
Ways that we've known about even before the internet is through social comparison and bullying. When you are on the playground and you see a bully, everyone understands that that bully is not dealing with emotions well, that they are not confident, that they are not secure, that probably bad things are happening at home, right? Well, a lot of people have bad things that have happened in their past and present, and they go online and they take it out on other people, and it's understood among society that it's completely okay to unrelentingly bully a public figure, even if they're just a public figure on YouTube, right? So that kind of thinking needs to change, which, it makes sense that society doesn't really understand that yet. The internet is relatively new. Content providers and their feelings are relatively new, that sort of thing.
So many months ago, Asmongold wanted to go on bridges and you said no? No. I'm pretty sure what happened was a long time ago, I think Asmongold said he would go either on bridges or on anything else, but he said that if he came on, he didn't want to talk any politics. And to that, I said no. Because what the fuck? This is like, it was, even at that point, it was a thing that he had been heavily involved in. Why the fuck would you come on and we would completely avoid any political discussion? Fuck no.
So there's that. The other reason why I'm interested in all of this is because if we're going to make the world a better place, and we're going to see eye to eye, understand the other side of the aisle, reach out to other groups of people to try to work together, then we have to stop interacting with other people online the way that we tend to interact with other people online. And I saw an opportunity with iDubbbz, not only just for his sake, but also just for my mission to try to make the world a better place by demonstrating that through love, and I don't use that word lightly, but through love, through understanding, through, I believe, an accurate understanding of the human condition, we might actually be able to push things forward in a positive way for everybody. Because the way that people tend to react to these things is through cancellation and hatred and black and white thinking, which leads us to a lot of the ills of society today and in the past. So I saw an opportunity with iDubbbz to change and reemerge as a content provider with his new paradigm of empathy and understanding other people's experiences and still providing entertainment and meaning.
Why must a bully have something about their life that is bad that causes them to act negatively? I would say, from a very weak vibe-based evolutionary psych understanding, I would say that humans are social creatures and we enjoy socializing with each other. It makes us feel good to do things that make other people happy. It makes us feel good when we see other people are happy. So if you're doing something to intentionally cause pain or suffering to somebody else, there's probably something broken there. Somebody's probably done something to you or hurt you in some way. That's generally the case. That generally really happy, really well-adjusted people aren't just spending all of their time, you know, like in snark forums or on weird like anti-fan message boards or just like being insanely hateful online, generally speaking.
Empathy and understanding other people's experience.
I do think, though, one thing that sucks, I think one thing that sucks is that I think a lot of hatred online comes from people who just don't think about it much, though, where people will just like, they just say shit because it's like funny or whatever, and they don't think much about the impact on the person, and they just kind of like carry on. I think I've mentioned that so many people I've seen in real life who are insane fucking haters of mine, when I see them in real life, they'll like come up to me like, oh my God, like Desi, what's up? You blocked me on Twitter because I said, and like some unhinged thing, but they were just like joking. They didn't like mean it much. They was like, oh, you know what? I was like, okay, well, it's kind of weird, but all right. And people don't think it's much of, people don't think it's a huge deal because it's like, well, you know, I don't do it that often. But the problem is if everybody does it just a little bit, then for the few people online who are in like those e-celeb positions that have to deal with it, it feels like a lot now.
As a content provider with his new paradigm of empathy and understanding other people's experiences and still providing entertainment and meaning and purpose. So I thought this would be a good example of this sort of thing because it almost never happens, right? You know, you've all heard of, or even you know someone maybe, who is a bigot, right? Well, we want, obviously, that person to not be a bigot anymore. And the typical way of reacting to them is through hatred and anger and attacking that person. And maybe...
Why do you think Aspen called you a sex pest yesterday? Before that, he would always defend you on that issue, saying that he will wait for your case concluding. Your unhingedness cost of credibility. One, he's already said this about me in the past, so he lied when he said he's never said that before. Number one. Number two, I consider what you just said to be a form of almost like social blackmail or extortion. If you think I'm a sex pest or a rapist or whatever, well then fucking say it. I'm not going to sit here and like, well, as long as you're nice to me, I'm not going to make this accusation. Like, if you think a thing, then just say the thing. Like, why the I think that admitting something like that, in my mind, I think is actually incredibly fucking embarrassing. So you're saying that you might have had like these like really negative impressions of me, or you think that I'm guilty of something or whatever, but you just weren't saying it before. Why? Because I was being nice to you. But now that I'm no longer being nice to you, now you're gonna, no, that's cucked. That's absolutely cucked behavior. All right.
Is a bigot, right? Well, we want, obviously, that person to not be a bigot anymore. And the typical way of reacting to them is through hatred and anger and attacking that person. And maybe they deserve some of that, but that's not usually what changes the person, right? It often just makes them worse. And we have seen that in other contexts.
You didn't want to talk with Asmongold in person. What?